this book, there is a signal. I'm just really a beginner in this YouTube thing, although I started 7 years ago, but because I haven't been consistent, every new video I feel like a beginner. And I guess that's why I need to be more consistent. Maybe at some point I will not feel like a beginner. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I need to tell you how happy and excited I am to be back to recording. I cannot believe it has been more or less 5 years since I've decided to start my YouTube channel. I'm lying, it hasn't been 5 years, it has been more than 5 years. I think it has been actually 7 years since I've decided to start my YouTube channel, more or less. I'm not great with the dates regarding this, but this has been a journey toward self-discovery, toward building self-confidence, toward exploring your passions. It takes time, and it did take me time, and I know I haven't been really consistent, but I really have been trying with life and like incorporating all my dreams into my day-to-day life and my responsibilities as a mother in a new country, in a foreign country, and you know, life has been tough after all the things we have been through collectively with COVID, with the situation in the world globally. It has been hard, but I have to say I am so grateful for every single one of you who interact with my channel, who interact with me, who share all this positive energy, who educate me, teach me things. I love this interaction. So thank you for being here and being part of this little community that I'm starting to build, and part of this journey toward healing, learning, self-discovery, and doing all of this through reading fantastic authors. So today I'm going to talk about a really fantastic author. I'm going to talk about Toni Morrison, absolutely one of my favorite author, one of the major, most impactful literary figures of our century. So please, round of applause for Toni Morrison. So this is the book I'm going to talk about today. It's called Mouthful of Blood, and this is a collection of essays, speeches, and meditation. As you can see, the title is quite self-explanatory. And I will remind you this, Toni Morrison, she has won the Nobel Prize in Literature, and she also won a Pulitzer Prize. So, excuse me, this is a very important person. But you know, I love Toni Morrison. She is just one of the giants in terms of literature, but also in terms of social justice. And this is exactly what we get to see in this book. So this is not a work of fiction. This is more about discovering Toni Morrison beyond her role as an author. So we get to see her as a social justice activist, I would say. And it's quite evident to realize, if you're quite familiar with Toni Morrison, it's quite evident to realize that this is someone who makes a point to incorporate social justice in her work. Because something Toni Morrison is going to do with her work is that she's going to challenge you. She's going to challenge the way you think. She's going to challenge the way you see the world. She's going to challenge your idea of justice. What do you think justice is? Because our idea of justice can be warped. It can be highly subjective. But what is justice to you? And she's going to also challenge your perspective on a lot of things. I'm really trying to make sure that I get to finish the video before the sunset, because usually I take so long filming my videos. I talk a lot. I talk so much. The challenge for me is to manage to finish my video before the sunset, because I take so long recording. By the time I finish recording, most of the time, nighttime is here. So I'm going to try to do my best today to have some good lighting and try to finish my video before it. So let's go straight to the book. And you see I have a lot of notes. So these are probably extra notes. No, these are actually notes from another book from Toni Morrison called Love. So I don't know why I put this in this book. I can be a bit disorganized sometimes. So yeah, if you are familiar with Toni Morrison and her prose, you already know that she is going to be quite challenging to read. You're gonna have to be engaged, you have to be focused, you're going to have to be intentional in the way you read and pay attention to every single word. It's not the type of author you can read where you can just skip words and just read carelessly. No, you have to be properly involved, because her writing is very rich, is very intense, is really layered, and she's really purposeful in her writing. So you really have to pay attention when you read. You really have to be deeply engaged, and this is exactly what you have to do for this book, and even more, because this book is not fiction, it's not a story, there's not a plot. She's talking about deep issues, she's getting really political, she's getting really philosophical. I did not pronounce this word properly, I know it. She's getting really philosophical. I think I pronounced it properly. So you really have to read, and you have to put your mind and your heart into it in order to be able to follow what she says, to be able to follow her points. Toni Morrison is definitely one of the most influential literary voices of our times. And I think this is a gift that she gives to us, a gift that she offers us with this book, for people who want to change the world, and for also, I think, for artists, writers who don't really know how to use their art to bring change into the world, I believe. Toni Morrison is definitely going to challenge your thought process, and she's going to challenge your views on certain concepts and certain ideas. She's also going to ask you, where do you stand? How do you challenge the status quo? What do you do at your level to bring more justice in the world, to bring more empathy, more compassion, more kindness in the world? What do you do to help the voices of people who are silenced? What do you do? That's what she does through her literature, and this is also what she exemplifies with her speeches, her essays, and her meditations in this book in particular. So this book was published in 2019, and this is only now that I read it, and it's my first time reading it, and it was quite challenging for me because English is not my first language, and as I said, she's getting really political, but I was really amazed by the depth and how serious she is about fighting for freedom, including freedom of speech, and fighting for human rights and justice. So it was just amazing to see this aspect of hers. So this book is divided into 3 parts, and I love this because we get to see Toni Morrison in different dimensions. We get to see her as a writer. She uses her mastery as a writer to teach us, but we also get to see her as a public intellectual and also as an advocate for social justice. And these 3 dimensions are all in this book, so that was great. This collection of essays, speeches, meditation, they span over more or less 4 decades, so this is something to keep in mind. And because this is a collection of speeches and essays, some of the topics, some of the themes, they might be recurrent. Certain topics are coming regularly, such as racism, freedom of speech, globalization. So this is something you can expect. This book is a clear illustration of the vast area of knowledge and mastery that she has. And I was totally blown away because not only is she a fantastic writer, but she is also such an insightful advocate, such a powerful advocate for social justice. But just to know that she is so deeply involved in these ideas that make humanity better and functioning. I mean, social justice, the fight for freedom, for equality, it is just so essential. But to see her so involved in these areas, I mean, my respect just doubled. My respect was already up the roof, but it just doubled. So on the first part of the book, which is part 1, The Foreigner's Home, we have brilliant and sharp observations on the topics of race, politics, globalization, artistry. I love that she speaks a lot about the impact of capitalism on freedom and individuality, because I think this is something people are scared to talk about, but she is not scared to talk about it, and she's also not scared to say the role of an artist can be quite risky, because as an artist you should be fighting for justice. I mean, your art should be a medium to bring about justice and more equality. The first part is deeply political. It makes us realize that a lot of things are going wrong, but there are things we can do. There are things we can do. And I love this because I am someone who, whenever I have issues, I don't mind feeling the emotions, I don't mind feeling the feels, because I'm human. But I think with the years, with the healing that I've done, the healing journey that I've been engaging myself on, I've built this, I think, very positive habits of feeling the feels and then turn to be solution oriented. So it's normal to feel scared, to feel worried, angry, preoccupied, but it's also very important to bear in mind that we can bring about changes. We are also powerful, and there are solutions that can be put into place. In part 2, she talks more about literature. So we have Toni Morrison as the writer who speaks to us in part 2. And part 2 is actually called God's Language. So we can see there is a clear focus on language, literature, the power of words, and the role of the artists. In part 2, she speaks more in depth about the importance of words, the importance of language. She does touch on it in part 1, but it's more in depth in part 2. So in part 2, she talks about the power of language and the role of language in power plays between cultures, between civilizations, between ethnic groups, and how the use of language can be used against different groups to erase them, to oppress them, or to manipulate them. Toni Morrison reminds us that literature is not only an art form, literature is artistic expression, but she also reminds us that literature is a tool for freedom, a tool for liberation, it's a tool for justice, it's a way to envision possibilities against injustice, violence, oppression. And this is something that she wants us to remember. She talks about the evident danger of censorship, and she also highlights the power, the transformative power of storytelling. But it's also, how can I say, deeply embedded in some cultures. Think about the cultures where tradition or history is transmitted orally rather than in a written form. So all these type of storytelling have to be valued and protected, and they shouldn't be neglected in a fabricated hierarchy of art forms. So here clearly both literature and storytelling can be used as a form of resistance against oppression, against injustice. And this is just that. This is one of the things Toni Morrison wants to remind us with a sense of urgency, because when you read this book, you will also notice that her writing there's a sense of urgency in her writing. Her writing is very intense. Some of her speeches are quite forceful, and rightfully so, because when you talk about injustice, people being killed, people struggling to meet basic needs, people having their voices erased, there needs to be something forceful about what you have to say, what you want to convey to to achieve justice, oneness, and to bring about changes. So yeah, sometimes her writing is forceful, but rightfully so. If you take into consideration the gravity of the topics she addresses, this is normal. She talks about inequality, censorship, environment, and I love that she does so, because at times environment is a topic that people feel it's such a big topic, it's too big to be discussed. We have to discuss it. We live on this planet together, we have to take care of this planet, and it doesn't take million difficult complex measures to respect this planet. She talks about the rise of extremist discourse, the different faces of racism. She talks about xenophobia, she talks about immigration, different approaches to immigration, and she wants to remind us that we need to keep our humanity. She stresses the fact that we are human beings and we need to find solutions that bear humanity, that bear empathy, compassion, instead of greed, fear, and the rejection of the other. She's not scared to say that artists do have responsibility, whether they like it or not, because to be fair, artists have a responsibility. Just like every single human being on this planet has a responsibility to be a positive member of the community, to try their best to not bring about unnecessary harm. We have a responsibility to take care of our environment. We have a responsibility to be respectful toward others. We are not expected to be perfect, not expected to know everything, to have like infinite knowledge. We are expected to try our best, the best way we can. And as human beings, we are flawed, we are imperfect, and our best is different every day. But because we have such a diversity of profile, we have such a diverse population, it should work. We should be here to help each other and to give each other a bit of grace, but also guidance, and also push people to have self accountability as well. But yeah, I'm talking so much, but to go back to responsibilities, yes, she does say that artists, they do have a responsibility. You know what, one thing that I love about this book as a writer myself is that for once, because I've been looking at resources, interviews, videos where Toni Morrison talks about her writing journey, her writing routine. How does she write? This is something I've been trying to learn from a long time. And in this book, she does talk about her reading and writing journey, because to be a good writer, you need to be a good reader, and that's something she says as well. So she talks about what reading means to us, the power of reading, what reading brings to your life, and what reading brings to your art as a writer. So she does talk about it in the final chapter called Invisible Ink. She does talk about the power of reading and how it nourishes your writing. And I think I need to do something about this chapter. I need to analyze it very deeply, because all the chapters that are specific to writing really did help me as a writer, as an artist. So these were probably parts of this book that were really dear to my heart, where I felt like I did make a connection with Toni Morrison, the writer, and Toni Morrison, the woman. In this last chapter, Invisible Ink, it is just wonderful, even for people who are not specifically writers, because for people who love reading, this chapter is just wonderful. She talks about her personal journey as a reader. When she started to read, it was hard for her as well. She gets quite personal, and that's why I say that these chapters are very dear to me. It's such a shame because I have all these books about Toni Morrison, all these videos, and one of my dreams, I remember, I would always say when I started this YouTube channel, I was always like, I need to make this YouTube channel. I need to make these videos about the great work of Toni Morrison. My goal and my dream was really to celebrate her while she was still alive. I was like, I don't want to wait for people to no longer be here, to no longer be alive, to no longer be in their physical form to celebrate them. So I had all these authors that I wanted and that I still want to celebrate while they are alive, and Toni Morrison was one of them. I have all these books, I have all these videos that are still on my hard drive that I made, and I was like, I'm gonna celebrate Toni Morrison while she's alive. I'm gonna show the world how she impacts us, and I'm not gonna wait for her to no longer be here to celebrate her. And once again, what stopped me, such a shame, once again, was this fear that I would not be good enough as a French speaker to talk about her work, that my videos wouldn't be good enough, that my content wouldn't be good enough, that I wasn't qualified enough to talk about her, that I wouldn't be good enough to talk about her. And then fear, lack of self-confidence stopped me, and also life got in the way, work, bills, family issues. Just to say that it's such a shame, and this is something that I had in my heart and that pains me, the fact that when I read this book and when I'm making this video, I feel very sad. I really wish I made this video while she was alive. I know a lot of people celebrated her work. I know she was loved, she was supported, she was celebrated. But I do know that on a personal level, it definitely was important for me to celebrate her while she was alive, and it is definitely a regret. But I can comfort myself in the fact that I did publish a couple of videos about her and her books while she was still alive. So I can say I have partially achieved one of my dreams. I was also equally crushed when another one of my very favorite author passed away, when Gloria Naylor passed away, because same, I have so much love for her and her work. I had books I wanted to talk about. I actually had videos that I recorded that I haven't published yet, but it rejoins something that Toni Morrison was actually clear about, that we have to try our best. We are not meant to be perfect, but we try our best. There's always room for progress, and this life is a journey toward progress, toward self-discovery, and what you do today might not be perfect, but so what? It's part of life. You're gonna do better tomorrow and the day after. And this is something that I've learned recently, and that's how I learned to become kinder to myself. That's how I learned to have more grace for myself, to be more compassionate, and this heals me a lot. And this is also something that I've learned through books. But you know, people's work, people's spirit, people's energy don't disappear because they're no longer physically here. So although I do have sorrow and regrets, I believe it's still important to honor this author who impacted my life in such a beautiful way. And even though I will still have a bit of pain in my heart while I do this and she's no longer here, I do feel like it's still important, it's still beautiful to celebrate her work and the way she impacted so many people, so many people, the way she helped people heal, the way she helped people understand themselves, because in order to heal you need to understand yourself, understand your position, understand your situation, understand who you are, who you want to be. And you need to have this gentle, introspective look to yourself to see the places in yourself that are hurting, the places in your soul, in your heart, the places in your mind that are hurting, the places in your story that hurts, and that helps you heal and heal forward. And I have to say that in this aspect, her book Shula was immensely transformative for me. Immensely. I mean, this book helped me heal so much as a young girl. I also felt that it healed the little girl in me. It helped me understand friendship. It helped me understand community, motherhood. It helped me understand myself as an artist as well. So yeah, Toni Morrison, fantastic author, and she transformed so many lives in a positive way. So I had to stop and talk about all these things as I was talking about writing, because it has been one of the amazing, fantastic things she has been able to do with her writing, changing lives and also bringing a push, an incentive for justice. In part 2, she also does a bit of reflection on her own work, and she also talks about work from other authors that did inspire her. So I do feel that part 2 is gonna speak to a lot of writers, a lot of artists really. Part 2 will bring you a lot of insight of her position, of her craft as a writer, because she does a lot of self-introspection as a writer. She talks about her writing process, the themes that appear in her work. So I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it. I'm not going to delve into it in this video because the video will last literally 4 hours. I mean, Toni Morrison is the type of author where you go to university and you learn about her work and her writing. Like, the syllabus has to be like 6 months. So this is not something I can do so quickly on a video. Look, the sun is about to set, but I am so happy that I have been able to make the best of the natural daylight to finish this video. So I feel like I'm getting a bit better with time management. You see, it took me years, but I'm getting there. It took me years, but I am getting there. And I think, you know, the most important is the fact that I do enjoy making these videos to talk about books and artists that I do love. So it is not perfect, but I'm definitely enjoying the process. This to say that I am reaching the end of my overview. Obviously, it was just an overview about this book. This is definitely an overview because this book is a condensation of powerful knowledge, of impactful ideas, of transformative prose on very, very important, crucial topics. So what I can advise you is, if you love Toni Morrison, if you want to know more about her writing, have a read at this book, specifically part 2. If you're someone who is really interested with social justice, part 1, you will love it. Some things that you have to bear in mind is that, as I said earlier in the video, the language is very challenging, in the sense that I think Toni Morrison is someone who really wants to make you think. She wants to push you to get the best part of yourself in challenging you with language, because I believe that's how you expand your mind. That's how you build all this neuron connection, by using new words, by challenging yourself. And just using new words, I believe it just expands your mind anyways. So it goes back to saying the language is challenging. You need to be fully engaged and focused and serious with your reading to be able to get her point. And this is good, because I mean, this is part of life. So sometimes we have to be challenged, and challenges helps us get to the next step. But I believe that in this context, it is still accessible. You just have to be focused and hold on and take the time to read each sentence. As someone who has English as a second language, it was quite accessible. I did have to keep a notepad next to me to take notes of maybe words I wasn't really familiar with, or maybe of her train of thoughts. So yeah, just be prepared. But it's also a very good exercise, I believe, for people who, like me, are not English speakers and who are always trying to expand their linguistic abilities. This is going to be a great exercise for you. And also, if you are familiar with Toni Morrison's fiction work, you would see that even in her fiction work, reading Toni Morrison demands engagement and also reflection. And I do love myself a book that is transformative. Like, what do you do? What can we do? I love that. So, to conclude, I do completely love the fact that beyond the writer, we do get to see Toni Morrison as a woman, as an advocate for social justice, as a friend, because I did not speak a lot about the interlude, but in the interlude, she also shares with us tribute to friends, tribute to her culture. And I love the fact that she talks about challenges in our world, but she also urges everyone to take a stand for global justice, for doing what is right at our level. And she does right with a sense of urgency, because I believe these are urgent matters. This is how she talks about social justice, and this is also how I believe she is as a public speaker. She speaks with a powerful, compelling tone. This is Toni Morrison. I have to say, this book, I actually borrowed it from the library because I'm trying to reduce my spending in terms of books. I think this is something readers will relate. I think readers will relate with this. I buy too many books, so I am starting to go more often to the library. And to tell you how deep, how challenging this book was, I borrowed this book for months, and it is now time for me to bring it back to the library before I get fined. I had to renew this book how many times? 6 times. Because I really wanted to take the time first of all to read it, to enjoy it, to understand it, and to absorb what she had to say. So this took time. Then I had to prepare this video. Then I had to do my research. Then I had to take notes. Then I had to record. So when did I borrow this book? I'm actually ashamed to look at the date when I initially borrowed it and the date we are today. So it's been, let me count. It's been 7 months. I have to bring it back, but you know, I have borrowed it for 7 months and I did renew every time, and I do know that the library has another copy of it. So you see, I am not a selfish reader. I'm very considerate. I do know that there are other copies of this book at the library, so I know I did not block anyone else on this book, but because I have now made the video, I'm gonna be able to bring it back. And you know what, I think I'm going to buy it. Please bear in mind that with Toni Morrison's writing, there is a significant level of complexity. There is a significant level of density, and her writing is extremely precise. It is very rich. So you have to be attentive when you read. This can be intimidating, but I do believe it's actually a great literary exercise. But please don't be put off by this. I really encourage you to persevere and read this book. And actually, most of Toni Morrison's books are going to challenge you linguistically, which I think it's a good challenge. Another thing that can be a bit intimidating is that indeed her language is quite academic, but not, I don't believe it's academic to an extent where you're completely lost, you don't know what she is talking about. I think it's still accessible, but just bear this in mind. And I know that some readers could be intimidated, or they might find this a bit off-putting. To tell you the truth, I did find it challenging, and that's why I had to keep it for so long. That's why I had to keep it for 7 months. That's how challenging it was. Like, the language was challenging. As a non-English speaker, the challenge was doubled. So yeah, but I'm curious to know, like, people who have English as a first language, I would be very curious to know that. How do you feel about this level of challenge, and how accessible do you find it? Because my vision is as a non-native English speaker, and I do find it challenging. Some of her books were more challenging than others. I do know that, for instance, her book Jazz was quite a challenge for me to read, while other books like Shula or Love, Mercy, they were more accessible. I mean, I enjoyed the challenge, whereas this book, I did feel a little bit like, you know, when you're at the gym, you're struggling a little bit, you're doing a bit of cardio. This book was a bit literary cardio for me. So Toni Morrison, Mouth Full of Blood. I have to say, listen, I have to say, with this title, Mouth Full of Blood, with her serious face, you should know that when you read this, Toni Morrison is not playing. She did not come here to play, and you should be prepared to be challenged with her content and with her use of language. Toni Morrison is a genius with language. She's going to use language as a genius to rock you, to make you think about these very serious issues. So yeah, that's what I have to say. When you see this book, you have to know that you're in for something serious. When you see the front page, you have to know that you're in for something serious. Make sure your seatbelt is on. But really, I really recommend this book. I recommend this book for people who are into social justice, and even people who feel like they are not great at being advocate for social justice. We need to start somewhere. We all have a responsibility as human beings sharing this beautiful planet. So read this book, challenge yourself. You'll be fine. You will understand what she says. You will be challenged, but it is, I believe, it's positive, good challenge. That's it for me. Let me think about things that I have to add to you. I do not think so. So I think I'm gonna stop here. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't hesitate to let me know what you think about this book. If you have read it, what do you think about Toni Morrison? Tell me how Toni Morrison impacted you. If you are not an English speaker, how do you feel about reading Toni Morrison? And do you feel that, like me, she did help you with your English? Because I do feel like when I read these books, when I read Toni Morrison, I always feel like I can expand my language. It is challenging. Some books from her, like Jazz, there are some passages, some sentences that I had to read 4 times because I did not understand it the first time. But for me, I believe it is a good challenge. So please let me know. Take care, look after yourself, cultivate grace for yourself, do your best, have compassion, don't forget self-accountability. We are sharing this planet together. Let's try to make it a good place. Let's try to make this journey enjoyable. Keep reading, keep loving, keep thinking, keep trying. Love y'all.